That was so much fun. You guys don't know what's going on behind the scenes over here when I'm sitting here in this this green screen dungeon. Hey, folks, my name is John Peasy, and welcome to Cool Crap We Love. All the stuff from this tonight is special, too. This is about the 70s and the 60s and 70s and 80s sitcoms. And I am excited tonight because a special guest is going to be coming up in a few minutes who I watched every day as well when I was growing up as a kid. And we were just talking to him down in the below in the green room area here, and he is a pleasure. But first, before we even get on with that, the surprise, I have to welcome my friend, co-host, and man of arms. It's Walt Pupaloto. He's coming up here right now. Walt, where are you? There you go.
You stink at my name. Papelo.
Look at me. Listen, I'm a Oompa Loompa compared to you. Look how orange I am compared to you.
You're orange, man. I'm going to start calling you 45. You're so orange. But, yeah, we had a good time. And I got to tell you something. I love that song, that little rocking song that we have in the beginning.
Oh, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da from Ben Sound.
Yeah, it's like little, you know, like you're at a carnival waiting for a ride or something.
All the songs are from Ben Sounds.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're all free.
Yeah, they're all free. Yeah, I'm sure. We have no budget.
Oh, we have no budget?
Yeah, no budget.
We're not paying BMI, but we're going to talk about some. And what do you see? Because I superimposed us in all the sitcoms again. So
I'm sure trouble. I'm sure everyone else is very excited about that, as like compared to me.
Why wouldn't they be?
I don't know. It's true. We have them all superimposed. We got some crazy stuff here tonight, and I have people popping in already. We got 20, 30 people popping in here, and everyone's saying hello to us. Hello, Sue Walsh, and hello, Mr. Rose Kaz, and Charlie Fisher. Hello, Charlie Fisher.
Charlie Fisher.
That's from a different
I think
show.
Sue Walsh is actually Max Gail's. She might be like whatchamacallit, the publicist or something like that.
There she is. Media. That's Hi, I'm Rose. Hi, I'm John. Hi, I'm Rose.
Hi.
What is this all about here? Somebody, thanks, Sue, for telling us the zone information on this. John Stewart.
See? John Stewart. Steve John Stewart.
Yeah. Steve John Stewart. Yeah. Yeah. Just like Abe Pagoda is alive.
Anyway. Yeah, but so we had so much fun last week with the sitcoms that we figured we would just do it. We would. There were so many we missed that we're going to do it again this week.
And we could go weeks and weeks with this because there are really it's amazing. You know, I forgot how many shows I watched as a kid. You know, Walt. I mean, I don't know about you, but each one, when it comes back, oh yeah, that was I watched that 1,000 times.
What else was there to do? What else was there to do?
We didn't, you know why? We were missing these when we were little kids. We didn't have these babies.
Nothing. You know? Channel 2, we had Channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. And if you had rabbit ears, you got Channel 47 and watch wrestling in a Spanish voice.
You remember when midget wrestling was allowed to be said?
Yes. Lucha Libre. Now it's small people fighting.
No, it's little people.
Little people.
Yeah,
little
but people then midget wrestling. And it's politically incorrect to say that today, but and I would laugh as a kid thinking, oh, I'm going to, you know, seeing people fight and everything. It was like a really fun.
So angry. Oh.
Yeah. It was and remember Andre the Giant during
Andre the Giant. Yep. Let me tell you, who's the most famous midget?
Little person.
Little person.
The most Hervé.
Little African-American guy, the Haiti Kid.
Oh, is it really?
The Haiti Kid was one of the most popular funny wrestlers that ran around.
Another one.
Crazy. I should have went out.
What about besides Andre Giant? How about the Italian guy who was the Bruno DiMartino? Remember that?
No, Bruno Sammartino.
Oh, Sammartino, and he used to go, "I'm going to take your arm and twist it into Italian noodle."
Vince McMahon used to talk to Vince McMahon all the time like this. But if you remember, the Bally's Casino used to have a commercial with like Leon Spinks and all these. Bruno Sammartino was one of the guys.
That's right.
That was plugging for Bally's.
We got to do a whole wrestling thing too. We haven't even spoken about that yet.
Dude, I know wrestling like the back of my hand. What's that?
You know the back of your hand, especially the right.
Back of my hand. Got a lot of stuff today.
I know. I heard that you got some shots, right?
I got some shots in my thumbs, cortisone, whatever.
You have to stop texting. That's why. Enough of the texting. Hey, let's get on with it.
Let's get into it. 8:07. We're bringing up our first TV show.
Our first TV show and one of my, and of course, one of the classics and one of my favorites over here. I hope I have the numbers right. Well, we'll find out in a quick second. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Now,
get on the side. On the side. We got to go on the side. Let's stay on the side. Brady Bunch.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch, and you know, everyone loves the Brady Bunch. Here's the story.
Nobody dislikes it.
No,
nobody. Who was your favorite? Who was your favorite girl? Obviously, let's keep Cindy out of this.
Okay, let's take a look at this again.
For obvious reasons.
Well, you know, this is interesting. Well, you know, what's her name was too young, and the blonde,
Cindy's out.
She was out because she was too young, and the other one was the geeky one. She didn't like her as much, and then. Of course, Jan Brady was like the hottest one, and Alice was the one that would be like on a bet. So I guess Mrs. Henderson was kind of cute.
Mrs. Brady.
Mrs. Brady was.
I think you got Jan and Marcia mixed up.
Is that what?
Marcia is the one on the left of the father.
Well, it depends. This may be mirrored. So
Jan has me stalking over her shoulder.
Okay, gotcha.
That's Jan. So I like Jan because Marcia was just a little too hot for me. So I went for that middle.
Really? See, I like Mrs. Brady. So
yeah, she was good, but that's guys. I mean, even today, there's probably a lot of guys that said, "Yeah, listen, Peter. I love Peter."
Now, there was also stories about her actually sleeping with young Mr. Brady, the son there.
Yeah, Greg Brady and Florence Henderson.
Yeah,
I think that was true though.
I don't know. Well, you know, silly rumors and all that kind of stuff. Great show.
That was a great show. Who we mentioned this? Who was Alice's boyfriend?
The butcher. Right?
What was his name?
Give me, it's coming. Ralph. All right, hit me.
Sam the butcher.
That's right. That's right.
But that show had it had Davy Jones on it, and Joe Namath, and it had a plethora of people on there.
Yeah, and plethora is the word. Isn't that something that's in our internals? I think so.
Well, I promised myself I would use that word today.
Plethora.
Plethora.
Now, speaking of, and by the way, I don't know why we're sitting here judging like who's the hottest girl on the show, but when you're 8 years old, that's all you're thinking about. Right.
Yeah, but that's what it was. I mean, right now I'm not looking at any of them.
I know we're not all perverted men.
Back then, that's the reason you watched it. You watched it for that reason.
And isn't it true? Wasn't it true that like he was a gay guy? The father, was he for real in life?
Robert Reed was gay.
Yeah,
I think he died of AIDS. He actually died of AIDS.
And what about and also in Bewitched too? I believe Darren, the first or second Darren too,
died of AIDS.
No, I think it was really? one of the dads was really a gay guy in real life or something. I don't know. It's funny that they get
both of them. I mean, they did have the name Dick.
That doesn't. Gendify you as gay, I don't think, but
no. So I went today. I got to tell you, I went today when I got the thing today, and on the form it said birth sex. So I had to tell them what the sex I was at birth, and then there was another box that says current gender.
Oh, really?
I swear to God, I almost took a picture of it.
And what did you say your current gender was?
You know what? I don't even think I answered it, to be honest.
Does it allow you not to answer it if you wish?
Yeah, it wasn't like an SAT test. It was it was a box. I don't know if I answered. I think I was just so thrown by it.
Right. Well, I got off a plane from Florida on Saturday, and they made us fill out all this kind of stuff like an indemnity and where you're going to be and what you're doing and all that stuff. And listen, 2020 is a lot different than 1970 sitcom shows. Much different time period, right? Hey,
yeah.
Speaking of great shows, so I Dream of Jeannie was. I've watched every one of these episodes so many times as well, so many times, and she was so beautiful. And as a matter of fact, this was the show that she had to cover a belly button. You see it in the picture there as well. Apparently, showing a belly button in this early 70s was against the
census sucked.
Yeah. And
but Barbara Eden was she was smoking, man.
Smoking.
There's only one person on that show more smoking than Barbara Eden. Jeannie was her evil sister, Jeannie, with the dark hair.
And the green costume.
Yeah, it was like a light greenish blue.
That's right. I remember that. And also,
what was her name?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Get you with this.
The evil sister. What was it?
They were all named Jeannie. Every one of those names was Jeannie.
I don't remember. I don't remember that. Jeannie. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
You remember? Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm just looking. She was a beautiful woman. And I remember people telling me lots of stories about her as well back in the day.
Were you one of those guys that thought it would be really cool to live in that bottle? Like that bottle was set up like for the perfect man cave?
The bottle was mod in 1970. Very mod.
Like everybody wanted to live in that bottle. I actually have a replica of that bottle.
You know,
I should have brought it over for this. I forgot all about it. It's right here in the man cave. But you remember the guy on there, the blue gin?
Yeah,
he was a male genie, and Tony caught him inside a vacuum cleaner, told them they were all treasures in there. So he turned into blue smoke and went into the vacuum cleaner, and they plugged it up and threw it in the ocean.
I do kind of remember that one. Yeah.
That was Michael and Sarah, and that was actually Barbara Eden's husband.
For real, in real life.
In real life.
That's some good stuff. I have some trivia on this, too. That fancy bottle, which Jeannie called home, was actually a decorative Jim Beam liquor decanter.
Jim Beam?
Yeah, and it contained what was called Beam's Choice Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey, and it was decorated and painted gold leaf on the show by the art department. That's like
something. You're reading that. I remembered mine. You're reading it.
You know, I was up at 6 a.m. I'm not reading anything right now. I'm like,
you remember the dog that used to attack all the uniforms? The invisible dog.
Oh yeah.
What his name was?
You know, that show was the first time I remember hearing about Cocoa Beach, which I was at.
Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Yeah. Last week I went to Cocoa Beach for the first time. I never had seen it before, but where they're shooting off all these new 2020 rockets. Back then it was, he was Captain what?
Right.
What was his
Captain Nelson? Tony Nelson.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Tony Nelson, Roger Healy, Dr. Bellows. I forgot what his name was.
Bellows. That's right.
Dr. Bellows. He was like, but Jeannie, but Major Nelson. What?
And the other and his friend was always like the loser kind of guy that he was always trying to get over.
Healy.
Yeah.
Roger Healy. He was in on it. He was in on it. Never tried to hit Jeannie, nothing.
But I can't wait to get to our guest. So I'm gonna blow through a couple of these if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All right. Laughing. Ronan Martin's Laughing.
Loved it.
Me too. Funny as hell.
Who's the most famous person out of that group right there besides you and I?
Let's see. I would imagine. Wow. Well, Ruth Buzzy. No, the guy who wrote the comedy for the show, Artie
Johnson.
Artie Johnson?
No, I would say Goldie Hawn. She's right there in the middle, the blonde.
Oh, the blonde. That's right. But she wasn't on all the season. Was she just on the first one or whatever? Or
I don't know. But she had the best career out of everybody there.
Did she? Yeah. What a career! Is right.
Who's annoying? That one on the right over there with her head back and her leg up. That was Joanne Worley.
Yeah, Joanne Worley. Yeah.
Joanne Worley. Whoa!
By the way, I was talking to a friend of mine. He was telling me that she was hanging out at a party in L.A. with Jay Johnson, the ventriloquist, and Judy Tenuta, and he's telling me that they were all just having like a holiday party last 4th of July, and she comes to the party all the time, every 4th of July. So she's still around and
Joanne Worley. God. And Judy Carn over there in the yellow, if I'm not mistaken, she was married to Burt Reynolds.
I don't know that for a fact, but I do know on the first season of that was Barbara Feldon too. Is she in that photo?
Oh yes, she's not in that picture, but yes, 99.
Who was the young African American girl? If I don't know if you can't see my mouse, but
that might be Diane Carroll. It might be. I don't know.
All right. Well, it was a great show, and it ran like several seasons, and it was actually really popular. and they had different people coming on over and over and over again. I'm going to buzz through this. Okay, we love the. I interviewed actually Butch Patrick a couple weeks ago, and he's a great guy. What a great guy! Really, really cool. And we all.
There's something. Let me tell you a little trivia about this picture. That I actually put our faces on it, and then I recast it in black and white. So that's why we're black and white in it.
Ah.
I had to do it in classic mode. But I got to tell you something. I loved Pat Priest on there. Pat Priest I loved. She was the one that took over for Beverly Owens. And from your interview with Butch Patrick, which I did know, Beverly Owens was the first one, and she got homesick, and she wanted to go home to her boyfriend. That's why she quit the show. They let her out, and that's why Pat Priest came on. But
that's absolutely correct.
Great show. Grandpa Al Lewis owned Grandpa's. You probably played at his club once or twice.
In Staten Island. And, the other thing, too, about the show that was interesting was that that show originally was in black and white and then became color. And here's another strange thing about that show. And I don't know if Butch Patrick mentioned this to me or not, or I read it somewhere, but they shot it in color because, and black and white rather, and didn't go to color because it cost $10,000 an episode to produce color back then per episode.
Yeah, they didn't want to spend the money. The TV show I don't believe it was ever in color. The movies that followed it were in color.
But they didn't want to pay the 10 grand for the color. And yet, it was one of those fringe things, and again, it was just a wonderful show. Now here's a show, Walt. This is a show that I never liked. And I don't know why. And I remember friends of mine, we used to go play Pokino when I was a kid on their house on Friday and Saturday nights. We would actually have, a beer and play Pokino and eat corn chips. And this show was on every time. And I used to think every time I watch it, like, you know where I'm going?
I loved it. Loved it.
You did?
Max was never on this. Max Gail. We're going to have to ask him if he was ever on the Love Boat.
I just didn't like this.
Loved it. Loved it.
I can't. America loved it, so I can't say. And this boat was actually in 1987 taken out of service. It was the actual boat that was out there was taken out in '87.
It wasn't. It was called the Pacific Princess on the show, but that wasn't the real name of it, was it?
No. But the boat was in service and then taken out for real in the '80s.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Judy, what's her name? Julie McCoy. She turned into, she had drug problems.
Oh, no, really? Yeah.
Gopher became a senator or a congressman or something. Mm-hmm. Bernie Coppell, he was in Get Smart. And Ted Lang, I don't know whatever happened to Ted Lang, which was Isaac Washington.
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
The bartender. I wonder if he's bartending now. Imagine that.
I don't know.
Came full circle.
Somebody's writing in the comment, isn't Judy Carn dead?
Judy Carn? Yeah, I don't know. Well, she was married to Burt Reynolds. I didn't say she was now. I mean, Burt's dead and Judy Carn.
Yeah, she passed away a couple of years ago.
I didn't say she was alive. Nobody ever said she was alive. Nixon did say talking to me. That was their catch line.
I love Pokino. So did I at the time. I love Pokino as well.
What is Pokino? Pokino was like 80 numbers, and they just draw them out of like a bingo jar.
Yeah, it was like these little. There was like chips. It was Pokino cards and stuff, and we used to bet like pennies and stuff. And it was. I remember it was a lot of fun. I haven't played it, and I can't begin to tell you how many years it's been. Oh, there's Eddie. I'm Isaac.
Oh, Eddie Clark. I didn't know Eddie Clark was Isaac. Eddie, he's only saying that because he's black, and that's why he's taking credit for that.
When did that happen?
Eddie's
the whitest man I met. He's the whitest guy.
My brother just said Isaac's still bartending.
Yeah, I doubt that very much. Hey, let's move it along because I really can't wait to talk to Max. I got to say, we just met Max before, and he's the nicest guy in the world. He really is a really kind of guy you want to hang out with. And
he's going to come in looking like the Riddler.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's the Riddler.
It's like a cross between bingo and poker.
That's what it is. It was. It's
a good question, though. Are people actually playing Pokino today? I mean, that was one of the things from back in the day,
Pokino is the game you see in all of the bars. What the hell is where the 80 numbers come up and you can play them in a bar right now?
The 80 numbers come up?
Yeah. What's the gambling you can play in a bar? Like a quick draw. It's quick draw. You don't have quick draw in Jersey?
I don't frequent
bars.
I don't frequent bar. I mean, as a comic, I would go to bars. I don't stay places. I get in and get out. I'm like, you know, I'm like in and out. I don't stay. I'm not a heavy guy hanging out in a bar kind of guy. I've never been that kind of guy. I'll come home and learn a new card trick. So here's the Munsters. By the way,
this is a ripoff of the Munsters.
Which one is? I'm sorry, the Munsters. Yeah, I meant to click the Munsters again.
This is the Addams Family.
Which one is you in there in the Addams Family?
I am in the back there. I'm back there with Lurch and Grandmama.
Remember that guy going?
Oh, Ted Cassidy.
I always felt bad for Pugsley.
There was a vicious rumor that went around about Pugsley that he was the singer Bryan Adams. I think his name is Bryan Adams, but everybody thought he was like that Back into the Summer of '69 Bryan Adams.
Bryan Adams. Well, I never heard that rumor either. I'm going to plug along because I want to bring Max on. And here is now every girl in the world was in love with this guy, and every guy was in love with the sister, right?
Yes, I know I was. Susan
Day. I know I was too. Yeah, she was adorable.
I know I was.
She was gorgeous, cute, and this is the amazing thing too. And then Danny Bottaducci, of course, was in there, and she was cute too. The mom was really cute as well.
Yes, Shirley Jones. She was big time there.
Big time.
But yeah, Susan Day was the cat's meow for us growing up, man. And everybody loved David Cassidy.
Well, I mean, you know, he actually worked all the way until he was old. He still looked good. He had plastic surgery. He looked really good. He looked good.
He actually played the theater that I run up here about 4 years ago, and then passed away.
Yeah. Well, he left a good corpse. He looked good. You know,
Bob Rumba just said that the Addams Family was before the Munsters.
Yes, I believe he's right. He knows old stuff, Bob.
And Gomez, if I'm not mistaken, Gomez was married to Patty Duke. His name was John Aston. She was Patty Duke Aston. So he was married to her. But he also played one of the Riddlers in the TV show Batman. When Frank Gorshin wasn't the Riddler.
One of those. How about this? Pugsley was Ken Weatherwax.
See, there was a rumor he was Bryan Adams.
Now, I believe this
Michael Scorer.
Thank you, Mike. I believe Michael Scorer is right. And here, hey, there's a guy named this guy took your name and just stole your stuff. It's Kincaid.
Reuben Kincaid was the manager of the Partridge Family.
Yeah, well,
he was the guy that managed them.
We've been using that for like the longest time in the world. You know, when you say, "Hey, who is your agent?" Reuben Kincaid. The comics been using it for 30 years.
Yeah, who wouldn't want Reuben Kincaid?
Sean Ashton is John.
Oh, yes, Sean Ashton.
Thank you, Miss Kaz. Very good.
The kid who played Rudy, if I'm not mistaken, he was Rudy in the movie Rudy, was Sean Ashton.
Wow. Okay. See, you know, it's amazing.
See, if you're not married, related to somebody, you don't get to go on TV.
Well, one of the things that's interesting here is that the people in the audience know more than you and I do. I mean, we don't claim to know everything, but it's interesting.
We never claimed that. We come on here and just shoot the breeze about it and let you guys take over too.
All right. F Troop.
Loved it.
What was the line? The one line from this thing that I remember from Corporal Agon that I always loved. What was that one line that was between him and Sarge?
Sarge. What was it?
I think it was.
You loved it so much that you remember it.
No, I just remember him something. It was something I used to quote it all the time as a kid. It was something like, "I don't know why everyone calls you stupid because you're really not that dumb," or something to that effect. It was something. I'm sure somebody will chat will give it to us.
Stuck with let's just say it's stuck with you.
It's stuck in my head somewhere. I bet you somebody knows here. It was something. Oh, that's the one. Okay, there you go. Larry Storch is the only one left. And by the way, Larry's living in New York. He's a friar. Well, I'm hoping to actually speak to him. But I don't know why everyone says you're so dumb, Agarn. That was the line. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. There was one line in there. And remember the Indians that used to be in the other tribe?
Yeah. What were the names?
They were the Hakawis.
Hakawis. Yes,
the Hakawis. And now they asked them one time on the show, how did you get the name the Hakawis? And they said they went out, they got lost, and they said, "Where the Hakawi?"
Is that what the line was? Oh, I love it. And that was such simple, beautiful humor, right? Larry is a great story and joke.
So
Yes, he is. I don't know if you've. Thanks, Nathan. Another fellow Fry, right? I think. Actually, I saw at the Friars Club, Larry came on. Larry Storch came on and did stand up, and he does characters in Irish brogue. Like he'll come on and go, "I would go," and this guy walks down the street, and then he'll come and change it into another English accent. He would come on and do storytelling comedy. The guy is fascinating. He really is, and
he's got to be 100 years old though.
He came out of like vaudeville, you know.
Somebody research and see how old Larry Storch is.
He's in decent shape though. He's okay. He's living in Manhattan, and I know his agent. He's a good guy. Hey, so again, I'm so past. It's 27 minutes, and I'm really nowhere near where I wanted to get to. I want to just blow through these because I really like to talk to Max because Max.
But Max is going to jump in on these with us.
Yes, maybe that'll be great. So we should bring him in here.
Just do the one. We can't. Well, you know what? We'll come back to it one day at a time. I wanted to do one day at a time.
I would go another day. I want to do one day with Max because I think he's sitting playing the keyboard. I see him with his hat on, and he's looking up at it. He's waving me. He's giving us the finger and everything right now. Like, get me on here. I got things to do.
The Riddler. He's the Riddler.
He's the Riddler. So before you even bring him on, honestly, one of the things about Max, I don't know, he's an American actor. He's best known for his television role as Detective Stan Wojo, he was He was supposed to be a Polish detective.
Yeah, Stanley Wojciechowicz.
Yeah, Stanley, and the sitcom Barney Miller, which went on from 1975 to 1982. And Max Gail is best known for his feature role in DC Cab in 1983. Did you watch that, right?
DC Cab with Mr. T and Sinbad, and Paul Rodriguez was in that too.
That's right, very good. He played Harold, the owner of DC Cab Taxi Company, and directed.
Oh, that's right, he was the owner. Yes,
Harold.
I think he had long hair.
That's right.
He had long hair.
He was also he directed several episodes of Barney Miller as Maxwell Gail.
Did not know that. Maxwell Gail.
Gail was featured in a monodrama, The Babe, on Broadway. The stage play was filmed later and featured on PBS. And he's also starred in other series, including The Whiz Kids. And he has a great body of work. The bottom line is, and all these television appearances and more. I don't want to discount him, but any of this. But he is a great guy, and he's here today. Hey, Max, I'm going to bring you up into the area. Here we go. I'm not going to use that music. I'll get in trouble. And here he is, folks. Max Gail. Hiya, Max Gail.
Did I tell you he was a Riddler?
How are you?
I was going to read your whole bio.
I'm totally intimidated. You guys know all these shows so well. I realized, hey, the 60s, 70s, 80s. Did I watch much TV in the 60s, 70s? You know, but anyway, I've been enjoying.
That's good.
You're a product of that time, and you and you look good and you look healthy. Where are you in the West Coast?
Yes, I'm in Santa Monica, California right now.
You look well and you look healthy, and people don't know this. You were just sitting down in the green room area playing jazz on the keyboard below you, right?
Yeah, well, to get nearest to the router so you'd have a better signal than if I was out at my van.
Yes.
He was the love child.
That's where I have my keyboard right now, in what's kind of my grandson's art space, and my friends just, the back garage room.
You're looking well after all these years from back in those days. You're looking well and healthy and good. Life is good for you.
Yes, yeah. I said hello to a young gal in the co-op today, and I said, "How you doing?" And she says, "Still breathing, still blessed." And I thought, "Okay, that works."
I got a friend, Chris Monty, that says if you take your two elbows and go like this and don't feel wood, it's a good day.
There's people still watching Barney Miller on Saturday afternoons. It's amazing how much of an impact that a show can have on people's whole life. I mean, it's so many years later, and still you have people that's still watching these shows and still enjoying all the humor and comedy. It must be what is the feeling that you get having people after a long period of time still come up to you and recognize you for one thing? That not your whole career, just that one thing, and it's always what they want to speak about. How does it feel to have that admiration after all these years?
Well, I loved Barney Miller, and it was, in terms of the terms you're talking about, part of the biggest, accomplishment or whatever. Now I'm only seeing me. I'm not seeing you guys.
Well, we don't want to embarrass you. We're here.
We're here.
Hey,
You got great
Max,
vibes coming from you.
I wanted to know this. Out of all the characters on there, who was your favorite to work with? I mean, you always look like you got along with Ron Glass really well. But I got to tell you, my favorite character, you'll never guess who my favorite character was.
Well, then you might as well tell me.
Inspector Luger. I waited for Luger to come in.
Yeah, Jim was a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Loved him.
You know,
he didn't care what he said.
World War II kind of, smoke him if you got him. He did all that stuff. He did movies with Elvis. He could really do it across the board. And there we go. These
Max going dark on us.
Yeah. And can I tell you a story about Jim Luger?
Please,
absolutely.
Just keep moving through.
That's why you're here.
All right. So 1 year, we got nominated a lot of times for Emmy, and then finally in our last year, I think it was, we won. And anyway, I was there, and Jim and I ended up going back up to his house, and with his wife. It wasn't like we hung out a lot. This was kind of unusual, And he let me roll something on his counter while his wife and he made their Manhattans or their old fashions or whatever that kind of, and they were drinking. And he said, so what was that joke that was going on around the set today? And it was a joke that was going around. The joke was, you say, ask me the most important element of comedy. And the person would say, what's the most important element of, and you'd step on comedy and say, timing. So that was a joke. I mean, it's funny if now I've ruined it. I should have just.
No, actually, it's
all right.
Yeah. It's a classic joke.
So he looks at me, he says, it's seriousness. And I said, no, you have to ask me what's the most important element of comedy, and he looks at me like, and why the fuck should I? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Why should I ask?
Okay.
And I say, well, it's the joke. You got to ask me. So he says, well, okay. What's the most important element of comedy? And I stepped on it and said, timing. And he said, no, it's not. And he stamped his foot like Luger. No, it's not. It's seriousness. But it was an actor talking to a younger actor. I mean, it was that's
John. Let me tell you, you probably don't know this, John, and I'm going to hit you with another one of these things that stuck in my head. But do you remember the Planet of the Apes? The movie, The Planet of the Apes.
Of course.
Yeah.
He was in it. He was the ape that went, the only good human is a dead human.
Really?
that was him.
Really?
Right?
This guy's
that was him, right?
I don't know.
That was him. The only good human is a dead human. That was Inspector Luger from Barney Miller.
I have another question here. Let's see if we can get this in here the right way. I'd like to get a see. Oh, I can't get three across because I have a fourth person here. This one is, does Max agree with Barney Miller was the greatest collection of an individual character actors in an ensemble in TV history? Good question.
Well, I don't know if it was the greatest or what that even means, but it was wonderful, and it was appreciated by everybody. And the wonderful actors showed up because of that, and they had characters with arcs and stuff going on. They weren't just there to kind of feed punchlines or be a punchline, and
right.
And that feeling of working together, it was a wake up call for me when the show was over and I moved on and I found how different other sets can be and how people can get, carried away with politics and trips with each other. So, yeah.
Like what's going on? How was it working?
Go ahead, Walt.
How was it working with Abe Vigoda?
Oh, it was, I loved Abe. Abe had I think he looked like an old man when he was 16. He was much.
Yeah. He died 4 times on Facebook.
Pardon me?
He died 4 times on Facebook.
Oh, yes, yeah. People always say that Abe Vigoda, he died, didn't he? I say, no, he just looks like it. But, so can I tell you a story about Abe?
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
So this is, there was a time we had a show where a guy, cast a very tall actor, and whatever he was there for, he went took him to the bathroom, and he didn't come out for a long time, and finally somebody goes in to get him, and comes out. I think it was Levitt. Just he he took the light bulb out, and he came. He's dead. He took the light bulb out. He stuck his finger in there and put his foot in the toilet. And
I remember this.
He killed himself. So we're sitting around. It kind of ended up being sitting around Wojo's desk. So here's Fish and everybody, and we're trying to. And Hal's saying, like, how do we play this? I mean, we've never had anybody die here. We try to take things, seriously, the things that should be. How do we play it? And Abe says, I know. And everybody talks, I know. We should play it with a loose hat. And he meant, with this instead of it. Okay, with a loose hat. I thought it was perfect. We should play with a loose hat.
But I remember that.
Danny and Hal Linden, looked at each other like, what?
I remember that. The guy in the prison, in the jail, he wanted to kill himself, and he went in the bathroom, and he unscrewed the light bulb and put his finger in the light socket and put his foot in the toilet. I mean, it was a joke in itself that was so hard to do.
Yes, but because the setup was he did that, and Fish says, I didn't realize he was that tall. So it was how do we do that? And that was, so that's like a lot of sensibility and keen intelligence, and how to do something that then when he does it, it's like, oh, that seems sort of simple. How else would you do it?
Hilarious.
That was Abe. Yeah.
Hey, John, what's Max's life like today? What is your life like today, Max?
Well, since the lockdown, I mean, I have been lately. Went in what was going to be maybe a couple of months, and it's been 2.5 years playing on a soap opera. Oh. That at General Hospital, when we would have shooting days, we'd be in our dressing room. They'd fire up the TV, and we'd see them rehearse until they fired up our cameras on the set, so that we could know where they were. And they didn't have to have the AD run and come and get us. And we're in the shower or something. So. And so I would watch that, and in some ways it was, a very powerful sort of dramatic thing, and it seems way sort of comical in a way because they had those long takes at the end, that all of that, but that was my kind of sense of what was going on in that world. I just never really paid much attention to it. And then I found myself playing the father of the lead guy on the show who comes back into his life, and he's kicked his gambling habit, but he's got Alzheimer's. And it's been a really interesting it's a different kind of storytelling. It just kind of continues on and to explore that denial and all of that. Now I'm pretty much gone,
But I think you should do
touch a lot of people.
I think you should do a remake of Wojo. Right, Wojo in his senior years.
Well,
retired cop.
People have been calling me recently with this idea that would Hal and I be interested in kind of coming in and cameo roles on a sort of remake of Barney Miller. I say, if you do the remake of Barney, if you whatever those ingredients were, which was Danny's creativity, and it's, but that sort of, I think that we're maybe coming around to a different kind of comedy, which is a cycle that does, you mentioned Laugh-In earlier, well, Laugh-In, there were sit-ins, right? And then there were be-ins and there were love-ins, and there's something about that language. So there was a TV show called Laugh-In that drew on old vaudeville and slapstick and other things, but it probed, where the infrastructure of TV was I'm getting a low battery signal.
Uh-oh.
Charged, but
that's it. Way to get into the show with 15%.
Well,
is that on you personally or the phone?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be on for 40 minutes before we got going.
We're going to have to speed up these questions, Walt. But no, what's interesting is like what is your life like now as a person?
Yes, so I'm doing that show. I have been doing that show. All right, but also I had 7 grandkids in 6 years.
Wow.
The youngest are now 3-year-old twins down in Austin, Texas. My daughter, India. So I get down there, with the lockdown, I haven't been down there for a while, but I was getting down for a month. I have my son who lives here where I am now. He's got a 4-year-old grandson. My daughter just had her third, another daughter, another. So I have all these grandkids that I try to spend as much time as I can. And then I spend a lot of time with film composers and other musical people because I'm looking for a way to fulfill with my particular limited skill set or whatever. But I think that the lyrics that come to me and through me and help me, they're like my breadcrumbs in the cosmic forest. I think of them as, which all good songs are. That's what Over the Rainbow is. It'll take you right there each time.
They come from above, they come in, and then they come back out. It's like,
well, in a way, if they come, they can come to you and they can come through you if you make that effort. Just like you guys have an idea, you make the ongoing effort to make it work and stay alive for you. And
we're not that smart.
Appreciate that. So
how about Hal Linden? You said Hal Linden. He's still alive, right?
Yes, Hal is like 88. He's incredibly fit for that age. He's been doing theater. Last time I saw him, we did one of those autograph deals together because it let us hang out.
Yeah.
And he went on, yes, to do which was interesting, by the way, because I always flag those off. I said, I don't want to do that. First place, I don't want to end up sitting over in the corner, just watching everybody. But
who's that?
Because
who's
in a
that
way,
guy?
Yeah,
right. Well, Captain Kirk gets $100 a pop.
Yeah, during the time when there were like 3 channels and PBS, if you were in a primetime show, it was kind of so. But it was not uncommon for people to come to talk at dinner about how they're your biggest fan, but you kind of know it's only because you're in the room.
Really?
Yeah. It could be, and your family meanwhile is being interrupted by them. And if you say, I really like to be with my, well, fuck you. You think you are?
Wow, yeah.
So there can be that kind of energy around all that stuff, But I found it chiller. The people that come they want to talk. They have appreciation for their show. They have great hearts, So that was a great experience. And Hal and I had a good time. And he went on to do this play where he was going to have to be really, really active. And he's, he's a great guy. And I'm glad that we're still friends.
And Greg, I think it's only Gregory Sierra who's still alive too, right?
As far as I know, Greg is alive. I haven't talked to him for a long time. I mean, I would be happy to, just to know how he's doing. He left the show. I think he was shortchanged in some significant ways that had to do with kind of honor. That weren't really fully appreciated by people, and and maybe other people could have handled that in a different way. But
so you haven't talked to him since the show? You haven't talked to him since the show?
I don't think so. I might have run into him shortly after, but I think
let's get this together, John. Let's get an episode of this where we get Greg and Max together.
Works for me.
I don't know how
I know how to get him now. All I got to figure out is how to get Gregory Sierra.
Yeah, that's a beautiful heart. Yeah,
and right in the same venue is right in the same in this condition right over here too. You know what else I'm thinking too, and I ask this to everybody though. Do you think comedy has changed since then? What has the comedy crossed the line in humor from the time that you were doing your show to where we are now?
Yeah, it's shifted a lot. Yes, and some of it is darker, and some of it's darker and really funny in that way. And I really don't watch TV, but of what I've seen and what I know of it, it's always Cold in Philadelphia or whatever with Danny DeVito.
Yeah, Sunny in Philadelphia.
Because I mean, they're all talented. I've watched enough to see that they have something going on. Danny is the in my lifetime the mastery of dark humor and being able to do things that you go, what, throw grandma from the train kind of, and he has that ability to do that along with the other serious work he's done. So
but Matt, you're not watching television really much. You're not really it's funny because people that are performers, people think performers, when you go away from it, you just get away from it. You're another direct, like you're playing music, you're doing other things.
Well, I watch, if I'm then my daughter down in Austin, they love to watch Marvel stuff. Mm-hmm. And then she loves to watch the cheesiest stuff that's streaming on Amazon, and stuff in it, and then she listens to some really astute, very funny, dark podcasts, So,
Sure.
but when you're around little kids, that's that affects the menu of whatever you're.
So you're watching SpongeBob a lot. You watch SpongeBob, The Fairly Odd Parents.
Well,
see all that stuff.
I work it out, so most of that. Actually, they're mostly on their iPads, if anything.
Yeah.
And creating but I think that I think that there's a more of a snarkiness in a way. At the same time, I look recently at some Barney Millers, and in these times we're looking, and I'm going, there was a lot more bite. Kind of bite around, like when we would arrest people, we'd be outside, we'd let them know we've just come in the station and we've come up a flight of stairs, and kind of got so we just put the handcuffs in their hand. We didn't do what we would do if it was a play, like let's work through what happened when I actually arrested you and handcuffed you. I kind of sometimes, if we did it, I say, Wojo's got the kind of skills and stuff that he lets without trying to scare you, that you're better off to do, whatever that is, given the issues, although I feel like we were dealing with those issues and trying to find humor in it, and as my friend Wavy Gravy says, when you lose your sense of humor, it's just not funny anymore.
That is the truth. And look at the difference between the environment now with everything that's going on with defunding police and people being angry at police and everything. Today, that show today would have to be so much different than it was then. I mean, today everyone's very tense and they are losing their sense of humor. And I think
by the
way, that was a time when the pigs were the pigs for people in my generation.
The pigs,
not everybody, obviously, but I mean, there was that. There was like, do I want to? I thought I'll do the pilot. And the pilot got picked up right away, because I had started writing songs. And so I thought, this will give me some money and I can go up to Big Sur and write songs, and the pilot got picked up, and it was kind of like, where is this guy really? Who is this guy I'm playing that is originally kind of a black and white cop? I didn't, where's the heart? And I finally, a friend of mine made a gesture just about like his own life decisions, kind of a Tevyev, from Fiddler on the Roof,
Sure.
Like the tradition, on the one hand, on the eye, and that, there was something in Wojo that had respect for Barney. And
it was like a father.
Experiences took him, to trying to do well. And in time, I got very involved with the Native American issues, and American Indian movement and stuff. And I was spending a lot of time on weekends at various reservations, and there would be events and powwows. And I learned the cats come in and stepping on the piano.
That's quite all right. Why did you get involved with the American traditional stuff? What was the reason for getting into the powwows and the American Indian? Is that part of your heritage, or you just fell for these people?
No, I got a lot of Irish in me, and there are some commonalities there historically. And I grew up, where there were evidence of Indian people before the island I grew up in was bought. So there was stuff there, and I suppose when we played cowboy and Indians, I was as much into being an Indian as I was into being Hopalong.
We talked about that. We talked about that. Hey, did you happen to know the old crying Indian? Remember the bag of garbage?
I did know him. Yeah.
You knew him.
Yeah, I knew him. Well,
I didn't think you know him.
No, we meant did you know the commercial, not did you know him personally.
No, I know him personally. I came to know him personally, and I know his son.
Wow.
Tree Cody. He's like 6'9".
He's a very happy Indian
Iron
guy.
Eyes is interesting. Iron Eyes played a lot of Indians at a time when there was a area called Gower Gulch, because that's where the Cowboys hung out. That's where we ended up shooting Barney Miller the last 5 years.
I didn't know that.
Sunset Gower Studio.
Didn't know that.
But and so he had, there's a lot of people that feel quite strongly about that Iron Eyes was actually not Native American. So within the Native American world, there's that. At the same time, the message was was a very powerful, memorable moment, that you didn't hear much of in that world at that time. You did not hear anybody say in any kind of way that anybody could relate to wow, we're part of this natural world, and it's pretty sad what we're doing, you know. So, and
Everybody
his son,
remembers that
you know,
commercial.
so yes, yeah, yeah. So, but he always, you know, lived in a sincere way and whatever, you know. That you asked, I was starting to tell you something. I forgot where I was going, but you asked
The
how I got
Indian. Yeah,
involved.
about
Okay,
why
so
you got involved in the Indian.
yeah, so I always kind of wondered about that. And at the times when my family would drive to Florida, I remember being on what was left of the Cherokee, little small Cherokee reservation. There was something in there already, but then around the time I reached the age of 26, and I taught, and then I'd gone to graduate school, so I didn't have to worry about the draft anymore. And I headed out to San Francisco to see what was going on. And I had picked up One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. My roommate had left it on the floor in the bathroom of our apartment, and I picked it up and I read it straight through. And then as I was getting ready to head west, I read "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee," which is a wonderful history of that time, you know. So then I got to San Francisco, and it wasn't long that I was there that somebody opened up a stage play of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Uh-huh.
Got a good reviews, even though it wasn't part of the American Conservatory Theater or any of that, you know. And they had a you know, a run on their hands, so they put an ad in the paper for people to audition for understudy. And on a fluke, it was raining. I didn't want to go to rugby practice. I said, I'm going to go down and read for that, and I became the understudy for the chief. And within, you know, before I ever even got to rehearse it, he had a fight with one of the other actors that he had an artistic difference about, you know, in acting styles. And they had the cast said, you know, he was a big weightlifter guy. And
this is great, though. You know why? Because Max, Walt, too, you're getting a story about something that happened in your life throughout that career, independent as Barney Miller and everything. Just as he's traveling around, working from one place, he actually knows the Indian that cried. This is like stuff that when we talk to you now, this lives forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What you're saying right now lives forever on the internet.
So at that time, there was an occupation of Alcatraz by a bunch of Indians who had said, you know, there's a treaty, you know, you know, and so that all of that stuff was going on. So then I continued on. I decided I'd go down and check out L.A., you know, and then I decided I'd go to New York. They offered me to go into the production of Cuckoo's Nest there, and I did that.
That's awesome.
Did some commercials and stuff, and then I came back. And I started running long distances, and I started writing songs, and you know. But one of the things I did was audition for Barney, you know, and that worked out. And in time, the guy who played the chief in the movie became a really close friend of mine, Will Sampson. I don't know if you remember Will Sampson.
I don't remember the name.
No, I don't.
Do you remember? Did you ever see the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Sure,
I did.
Well, he played the chief. He played the chief in the movie.
Now let me go look for that, because now that's gonna drive me a little bit.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The chief was the guy who threw the water fountain through the window at the end. The one that was he escaped.
He was not. Yeah, he was playing. He was pretending to be catatonic, and thinking he was small, because the world had just gone to, you know, to shit so much, and you know, and he'd had a battle, you know, So it was, the movie's kind of about him coming back in and live, and he goes out the window in the end. And
DeVito was in Danny DeVito was in that. I think Christopher Lloyd was in that. If I'm not mistaken, John, Uncle Floyd was in that.
No,
Floyd Vivino.
No. Uncle Floyd. You mean who do you mean by Uncle Floyd?
Uncle Floyd Vivino. I bet he was in that.
I don't remember that, but here is the list of characters that were in that movie.
Yeah, Danny was in the New York production of Cuckoo's Nest.
Jack Nicholson, Louise Fletcher, Will Sampson, Danny DeVito, Brad Dourif, Christopher Lloyd, Vincent Schiavelli, Fredrickson, Michael Berryman, Mimi Sarkis.
Yeah, and Mimi was in the San Francisco.
Oh, really?
She's the only person that made it all the way.
Scatman Crothers.
Scatman.
Yeah. Yes. Sidney Lastick, Small, William Redfield, oh boy, this is what a Louise. There's a huge cast here, huge cast over time.
It was, you know, the whole story of Cuckoo's Nest and all that. So But in time for me, I became, like one of my closest friends and sense of family and connection up in Warm Springs. In the story, he's one of those Columbia River Indians, who used to live up by the waterfalls, that many of which got dammed up when the Columbia River was dammed up. But anyway, and my life path brought me to know those people, to know Will, but also to come, and that happened because I started writing songs, and a friend of mine who was friends with Buffy St. Marie. I don't know if you remember. Buffy St. Marie was an artist maybe before your time, back when it was Dylan and Joan Baez and Buffy. At a certain point, the folk.
Was she on I Dream of Jeannie?
No,
she wasn't on I Dream of Jeannie. I don't know.
Sorry, Walt.
No, she was pretty much kicked off the radio with what her message was. But around that time, she was doing Sesame Street. But I did work with Barbara Jordan. I Dream of Jeannie.
Barbara Eden.
Oh, Barbara Eden.
I'm sorry, Barbara Eden.
So what did she look like? What did she look like in person, Max? How did she? She was beautiful.
She was beautiful and graceful and present. It was one of those Hallmark stories, where our daughter finally marries the right guy, sort of thing.
Right.
She's still alive. She's still alive and smoking today.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she and Al did the play What Love Letters. There's a two character play that gets done a lot. It's an exchange of love letters that people kind of read back and forth to each other, tracking a relationship.
We're going to get you and Gregory Sierra to write love letters to each other on this show.
Yeah.
Well, I think that would be very cool. I'd love to hear what's.
I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to try to get this done.
Now, all these years that have passed now, and you look back at this, were there any things in your career that you really, as a pinnacle, that you loved about whatever you've done in the past? And there are any things that you wish you had done differently over these years when you're looking back now? That's a good question.
There's a lot of stuff I wish I'd done differently. Putting more at stake or. So because I'm always learning, and but I think one of the things happened. I had a wonderful time working on this Babe Ruth character in this one man play, which is a kind of an odd form, because the audience become actors with you. So critics have always had a hard time with that, whether it's Mark Twain or Emily Dickinson or what wonderful people that do those. Sure. But it was a great experience. But it was also, I gotten married, and my daughter was 8 months old, and my wife was feeling out of sorts. And the next thing, she was in the hospital, and next thing we found out she had colon cancer. And
oh my God,
next 2 years of our life were very different kind of times of we're going to beat it, and then well that's just a setback, and then it was time for her to move on, and I became a single mom for a few years before.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow,
so
wow.
Just all out of there wasn't a way I could.
No, but
work and do that too.
You can see that Max is like a very spiritual person, that he's a very earthy type person. I could see that. It's very clear that you're this kind of a guy. And now that you tell me that, it's almost like sometimes things happen in our lives that make us into somebody that we may not even been. And I kind of see that. Maybe is that the catalyst for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's all ongoing. I wasn't doing television, and I had a clear time. I remember I was going in to meet with Don Belisario on Quantum Leap, and I'm not saying that it was an offer yet, but halfway over Malibu Canyon. And I had my daughter in the back. Her kindergarten teacher conference had run late, so she's coming with me. I'm saying, I may go in this other room, but I've got crayons and everything is going to be cool. And I could see, I pulled over. There were no cell phones in it. I said, wait a minute, I can't do this. I love the whole concept, but I drove down to a payphone and called and said, thank you. I'm flattered and honored, but I can't.
Wow. So you took the right path.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't long before I was back in the, time came where it was time to move on, and I did that, and I had two more biological kids, and another. My wife had a nephew whose parents had died when he was 2. And he was like 11 at the time, and he came out from Chicago to visit us and stayed, and now he's just another son.
Wow. So, you see again, right. Walt, this lives forever. This kind of stuff lives forever. And who would know what tragedy took place that creates the person that you are today, which is totally different than just a television show. It's much deeper than that.
Yeah, and everybody has that in their lives, right?
Of course, but
everybody has terrible, and everybody, whichever way we decide, when unfortunately we do, that somebody else is our enemy, yeah.
Oh, all right. Look, I'm gonna get off track here. What was your favorite episode filming of Barney Miller? What was your favorite episode?
My favorite episode of filming, I have trouble with the question, what's your favorite? Makes me think of more and more things. But I think, in a way, the hash brownies, had a sense of fun about it. Because in those days, you didn't play around with that.
That's true.
But we did, so that was fun. I loved the scenes, in the office with Barney and Barney and Wojo. I thought those were beautiful moments. I loved doing the show.
Yeah. And then Jack Sue. If you think about this, they had like one of everybody on there. They had the Polish guy, which was you. They had the white captain, which was Hal. They had Gregory Sierra, which was the Latino. They had Jack.
Very decidedly Jewish, though. Danny was Jewish,
right.
grew up with a single mom, went into the Marines at 18. Barney Miller was very definitely a Mensch Jew. Danny was Jewish.
Jack Sue was the Asian guy. Ron Glass was the African American guy. Fish was the old guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you covered all the groups.
Yeah,
it's a big brush.
Yeah, it let us have a subtext to things, that weren't like it. It wasn't like that issue show. We had one time. You brought up Ron, and one time we did an episode, and in the episode, Glass gets shot at because he shows up at a crime scene, and another cop thinks he's a perp and shoots him, without letting him, because he's black.
Right.
So he comes in the beginning of the show, and he's very pissed about it, and then he leaves, and then a lot of the rest of the show is about us. Have you heard from Harris? No, I haven't heard. Everybody's feeling kind of bad, and we would often get where we'd be shooting late into the night. We didn't have a studio audience after the first year and a half, because anyway, so we get to doing those scenes, and Ron, who was decidedly not going to be, I'm not going to be the black spokesman for, black.
Really?
As it was in the movies at that time. We had blaxploitation movies. We had, there's some great work done by great people, but there was a sense that, well, are you going to, he wanted his humanity and his giftedness as an actor. So, and he was, each one of the characters was part of us, the actor, and a part of Danny. So Danny, who loved to dress to the nines, and he also was a writer, and Harris became a writer, so he was an observer, But in this case, the way it was, he came back and he says, "I'm sorry, guys," and we say, "It's all right, man. We understand," And he says, "What am I apologizing for?" And some of us maybe of a different generation got that. Yeah, right. Danny and Hal had a really hard time with it. They came from another, out of the Rat Pack, coming out of World War II, calling each other, affectionately calling each other Spicks and Wops and whatever, a sense of something, that just was not, you look at how Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra teased Sammy Davis Jr.
Sure.
You look back on the internet.
Yeah.
I loved it. Even the roast back then, the roast.
They teased each other. They teased each other about it. Yeah.
So we stopped. We're into golden time, and the camera, everybody's saying, we stopped the whole thing until we finally, worked out what was, and Danny was just as honest. I just don't see why, and finally it kind of, something found a way through, and then Danny, because he had that, he found a way to say all that and even have something funny in there, and so, we were always trying to do that, and that made it meaningful. And I think it's what people appreciated, that we didn't think that between New York and California was just a bunch of people that didn't know enough to know any better. So why try to make it meaningful?
And you had a cool theme song, man. The bass, that was a cool theme song.
Yeah. The bass player wrote that too on the gig.
This is a funny line right here.
Elliott did the music. Jack's highly regarded, but I've heard that the bass player, just came up with that right on the gig.
This is such a funny line because one of the guests just wrote this on the side when Wojo was in drag for a purse snatch. He says, "What do you do when you go to the bathroom?" And Wojo said, "Just hold. I hold it." Great line. Great line. Great line. Right. So,
but that show was just like All in the Family, because I remember All in the Family got away with a bunch of stuff, but there was one episode, and it sticks in my head. Was, again, we'll go back to Inspector Luger. They had Orthodox Jewish people in the jail cell.
Yeah.
And Luger just walks in with not a care in the world, no filter, and goes, "Hey, Bond, who's the Pine Brothers?" The guy's on the cough drive box. And I was just like, now? You could say that now?
No. But you see, we were able to accept things a little bit different in the 70s. I mean, actually it was groundbreaking television, even with this show and All in the Family and all the things that, even though we consider today to be racist, back then it was, I wouldn't say it was acceptable. I think we were just pushing the line, letting know this is the way people interact with one another when they are friends rather than when they're putting somebody down. The
context is a lot. I mean, everybody was supposed to know that Archie Bunker was not a role model.
Right.
And so Carol O'Connor, did not want people to think, it kind of horrified him sometimes that there are some people that think, yeah, that's my guy, Archie,
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
That's beautifully said. The show was that this is nuts, and so that was, true of Luger in a way. Luger was living in another era.
No filter.
No filter.
No filter.
No filter.
And it's names. There's a black Harvard professor who wrote a book called I have to say the N-word, And by the way, my kids, my oldest daughter, my kids have black mothers. My first wife who passed is African American, and my wife with it, I had these other kids with it, African American. So my kids are.
You're just saying that because it's 2020. Come on, you're just saying that because it's 2020 right now. You're like,
stop lying. Stop lying there, Max.
He's
trying to score points in this decade.
I've certainly learned as my son, grew up and starts living in a world that has been changing in some ways, and he's over in Thailand right now. He really doesn't want to. He doesn't want to live in America.
Wow.
Daughter's down in Austin, Texas, and she. I mean, Austin. A lot of people say Austin is not Texas. It's certainly got a spectrum of people and points of view and stuff. But
what's your son doing in Thailand, though? What's he doing?
Well, what he was doing was, among other enterprises he was developing around internet and stuff, was helping people that had their families that had their boats on this island. Tourists would come and be a kind of a cluster grouping around the dock to make deals and stuff like that. They could do all that online ahead of time and
he's mulatto. He's half white and half black.
Yeah, I haven't heard that word used in that, but yeah,
I mean there was a time
we had specific words for a whole gradation of combinations, and there were free and there were enslaved and all. After the Civil War, when it became if you're a progeny of that person, then you own part of the plantation. No. If you have a drop of black blood, you are black, and therefore so we're still being with that, and then people get forced. I see my son, however he might feel, the world of white is not really accepting him. Not really? That there aren't, because when you get beyond that in relationships, well, then it doesn't, but in the world as it is, that there is that. And,
hey, this grab, Walt, this really grabs me because the first thing I think of is like, I don't know how the empathy for how it feels to be an African-American in 2020, or growing up in American, you know, in all these times. And now you're saying that your son, how do you even categorize? I use the word mulatto. I think it's politically correct. I'm not sure, but how do you categorize?
Yeah, I know. It comes from an older time. So there's you know, Max, I didn't
in the
pick
Cosby
up
days.
Pardon me?
It was back in the Cosby days. That's how they referred to Lisa Bonet, as being mulatto.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, but, you know, and, it's a beautiful name, you know, just in the sound of it and all. You know, I was talking about this guy at Harvard that wrote a book with that
not even a name,
breaking down the word. Huh?
Not even in the name, though. I mean, just the combination of black and white people together produce beautiful people. I mean, even Spanish, Puerto Rican, Mexican, you know, that combination. I mean,
we're coming back together as a family.
Yeah,
human beings. It's like, you know, it's a beautiful thing. But you know, we are, you know, we're going through a lot of what happens when we don't know how to have difficult conversations in a marriage and family. You know, the things we don't know how to talk about it, so we don't until it's too late not to.
I'd be remiss not to bring this up, but also Linda Lavin was on that show. The woman who played Alice. She was the Spitfire. She was the Spitfire detective. Ross.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Linda
think
Lavin.
Danny just waited. Everybody was telling Danny, "You got to sign her." I heard this later, you know, and he just, you know, you know. Anyway, she got picked up for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and that was the end of Wentworth. But what a wonderful person and actress.
But she was great, little Spitfire, and she was a cutie on that show.
Yeah.
I don't know if
she's done a lot of Broadway, a lot of theater.
You're getting a lot of compliments, Max, from people saying, thank you for sharing your life here. There's another person here saying he's got to go, but I lived in my car for the first time I got to LA. I was struck when I met you, and you were very kind to me when I met you. Those kind of things kept me going. Best to you. People saying so many wonderful, nice things about meeting you in the past, and et cetera. Very nice. I mean,
well, I'm glad you did this, man. I'm really glad you did this, because my father, you know, rest his soul, he was a big Barney Miller fan, and my mother's last name, maiden name, is Paulowitz with the ICZ. So Wojciechowicz was, you know, one of the brothers.
Yes.
So
one last thing, I know, but circling back around, when I really found military vets who I could get a feeling for, like what is really going on for Wojo around what he's experienced and stuff. I mean, I spent any time I could with cops and stuff, but as I began to spend time in Native communities, there were always vets who were Native American, you know, who had all kinds of reasons to be bitter or whatever. You know? And often they were the guys that were put out on point because you're Indian, so you must know how to. You go first, you know, and you know, something in there, you know, where most people resolve those conflicts in their hearts, however they've shown up from a, you know, a troubled childhood or going off to war or whatever it is. You know, we all deal with stuff, and if we can share some of that, I think we can have better conversations with each other.
Right on the, and by the way, just one more quick question here, because this is
what you guys do. I see.
No, well, yeah, I mean, I really, you're the kind of guy we go have a beer with and hang out. But this is, he's asking a question without getting too political. Could you ask him what he thinks about the media's portrayal of police today? I know it's a loaded question. He doesn't want to go far with it, but what do you think of the media's portrayal of police today?
Yeah, well, you know, media is, you know, the word includes everything, anybody that's putting out any information. So there are people telling stories in different ways, you know, and pointing to the ones that are telling it different from the way they tell it is they're the fake guys, you know. And I think overall there's a tendency to kind of follow one story, and all of a sudden we're not hearing about those kids down at the border, or we're not hearing about people starving and, you know, in the middle, you know. So there is that nature of following the story. and in a way, then, so there are people who are really good at generating a story that everybody will follow, has enough controversy in it. And a lot of that has to do with, when we eliminated the fairness doctrine. So now you can, you're not, the news part of it is not obligated to kind of be, to be fair and balanced. And so I think we're have a hard time coming together and having a conversation with a center rather than sides. Everything defaults to a debate, one side or the other. And so that's happening. Yeah. I know that police are very much feeling their stories not being told. And then there are people, who are championing that story, mostly the spokespeople, the union leaders who they're going to, so we kind of hear that, which tells everything about those feelings, but doesn't seem to acknowledge any of the other stuff. We had in this composers breakfast club, we had two people come. One, a black friend of mine who's a wonderful spoken word poet, and a sheriff's deputy or officer. She's a lieutenant, I think, who actually grew up in the hood. She's blonde. She looks like she's from Malibu, And we had this conversation where it came out, something I know a lot, when police get out of a car and they come up to deal with somebody, then their mind is the last cops they heard of that were shot, because that word goes around throughout policedom. This cop was shot because he kind of got a little too casual or something, The person in the car is going, "Oh, fuck, I'm a black guy here," maybe. It's a tinderbox, and so I think that, and it's a kind of one or the other, which side are you on sort of thing. So I think we need those ways of telling these stories that really do get to, I think that, the whole use of police has been militarized, the way people are trained, the shortness of their training, the tools they have to use. And so the whole thing seems to be building up, kind of getting armed on both sides, and there are a lot of shitty people who aren't cops. There are some shitty people who are cops.
Sure.
And there are some shitty people who aren't cops. And, so however we work through this, I work with this, there's a group, because I play in this guy with Alzheimer's, and there's a group called Project Lifesaver that was started by some cops who eventually retired to keep running. And what they do is they work a program with the police department and the community and people who might wander because they have dementia or Alzheimer's or Asperger's or something on the spectrum or whatever. So they need to have a bracelet on, So part of the deal is just people enrolling and doing that, but they can track them using the same technology we use for wildlife, and some of that's getting upgraded now. But so they can find people very quickly who, usually the search is, an expensive 2 weeks with a sad outcome. And so it's based, it's a cop organization. They work with police departments, and they are clearly about, saving lives.
Sure.
And at the same time, they're all guys who participated in SWAT, and so there's all of it to happen. Some terrible things have been done in the name of police force, almost in any country we've known. It's something that emerges when we're in numbers,
Yeah.
But how we are with it and how we support good, peacekeeping along with the law enforcement and this thing of other people, it's easy. We're looking for rallying soundbite numbers, but it actually is something that needs a full circle community conversation, with some humor.
I'd be crazy not to bring up the fact that, Max, you have one of the best phone batteries in captivity.
No, that
battery is gone.
You plugged it in.
I hope you don't mind that.
I got the 10% warning, but I thought I had it charging. But you know how chargers are these days. They work for about a day. And then,
they get loose. Max, just so you know, this show I put it out on like the 70s pages, the 80s pages, the nostalgia pages, the TV sitcom pages. I put it on like 70 or 80 different pages, along with now the Barney Miller pages. I'll put it on there. I'm also going to be sending it to CNN, so you might see the show on CNN tonight.
Cool.
No, I'm not sending it to CNN. I'm not sending it to CNN.
You know, I'm not. I was rolling along with you, and whatever. I've enjoyed. I know we didn't get to talking about a lot of other shows.
It's all fine. We'd love to do it again. Have you come on anytime again? Because actually, we can see that you're a very deep man and you're a spiritual person, and it's not all about just the laughs of a sitcom. Sometimes there's a lot more to life than this, and it's nice to see that what you said tonight. What you said tonight lives forever on the internet, and people may not know who you really are. And now I feel like we do.
Yeah. Well, we're in it takes one to know one territory.
No, I don't know about that. You don't know where me and Walt are part of the evil.
Can I
right
share
now
one
with
of
the
my
accents of evil?
Can I share one of my shorter rhymes with you?
Please,
go ahead.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
It's not like Andrew Dice Clay, right?
No, I hope not.
Pardon me. Gee, what an interesting guy. It's bigger than you, and that can be the small Y or the big U that people get hung up over. Who's the you you're praying to? But it goes bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than all our hearts and minds can see, bigger than all we believe there to be, bigger than bondage, bigger than free, bigger than love, bigger than hate, bigger than destiny, bigger than fate, bigger than humble, bigger than great, bigger than race or religion or state, bigger than teacher or guru or sage, bigger than sex or youth or age, bigger than anger, resentment or rage, bigger than anything said on a page or a stage, bigger than action, whatever we try, bigger than all we accept or deny, bigger than any one, what, who, or why, bigger than bigger, and bigger than I.
Beautiful, huh?
Beautifully said. By the way, I can't end on a better note than that. That is gorgeously, beautifully said.
All right.
And by the way, there's people clicking in here saying, "Hey, please bring Max back on. He's great." People saying, "Visit Max's page here on Facebook. Keep us up." And Max, do you have a Facebook page? I guess it's Max.
I do. Yeah, I've got my friend Sue Walsh has gotten that together recently. So
right here, yeah.
Gail, and she's digging up all these pictures from gigs I've forgotten I've done and stuff like that. And I think it's a time to kind of tell this story of that arc and that time. And people who have been around that long, they'll be able to reflect on. All right now, it's just a whole lot of goodwill.
Hey, real quick, have you read the book Kahlil Gibran, The Prophet?
Oh yes.
Yeah, many times, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. Well, it's you kind of take it in, and then it's there, and then you have it around, and you pick it up, and
all the time. I give it away as gifts to people for holidays. It's one of my favorite books. One of my, and I can see that you have the same mindset. But Max, you are an absolute delight, and I hope you come back and do this again. And I am so glad you ended with that little poem at the end. And I just wanted to let you know one thing about me and Walt. We truly are evil people, just to let you know for future reference.
I can see it. But then on the other shoulder, I see that one too. So. You guys take care, all right?
Please do it again.
Thank you, Max, so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Folks, we're going to thank Max Gail. You were actually wonderful. And again, I'd like to have lunch with that guy. Just hang out and just hang out. He's a cool guy. Very cool.
I knew he was one of those cool guys. Even back then, he always was in the news, like the National Enquirer as that guy. That he was different than everybody else. The American Indian stuff, all that kind of stuff. But he was great, man. He was a lot more fun than I thought he was going to be. And the stories are just something you don't get anywhere else, because most people have them on. They want to talk about Barney Miller, and that's it. I told them we weren't going to talk about Barney Miller the whole time.
Oh, we still hit some. We got a lot of Barney Miller.
We talked some.
Yeah,
we talked some. So Hey, it is what it is. We go with the show. We could have been talked about White Castle hamburgers just as easy tonight.
I could go for that right now, actually. A couple of double cheese killer burgers.
I'm eating Hasbrook Heights.
I haven't eaten today. I did a couple gigs here, and I had eggs and cheese. That's all I'm eating. It's time for me to start eating some meat.
Have a salad.
Get out of here. I'm not a girl.
All right, so I'm working on another person from the 70s and 80s for next week. That we'll have that out as soon as we can. But thanks again to Max Gail. John, thanks for you for putting the whole thing together, man.
This is awesome. And thanks again, Max. It was really a lot of fun. And I would have him come on anytime and talk. He's just a pleasure of a guy. He really is. And and by the way, everyone in the chat left these wonderful, great comments, thanking, and hearts and stars.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, it's so nice. It's so nice that people really, Daniel Miller, the only viewer we have from Canada that actually has in his home what?
He has a urinal on his wall.
That's correct, Walt. That's another piece of trivia that everyone
I had so much trivia. I had so much trivia about One Day at a Time, man. I was just crazy about it. We'll do it another time. Yeah,
next week. Hey, we'll be back. Anyway, we went 27 minutes over, but this was way too much fun. Hey, Cool Crap We Love will be back next week, and the theme of it will be released on Facebook when we pump out the next little thing.
There you go. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, bro.
Have a great week. Happy 4th of July. Be safe.
Great 4th of July. See you next week, guys. Ciao for now. Bye. Hey, come on, let me out. Come on, let me out of here. Get me out of this drug.